Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream in the world of Vera. I am joined today by three of our absolutely awesome developers. We have with us two regulars and one new face. One of our engineers, obviously our glorious engineers, Keenan. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for asking.
Welcome, sir. Welcome back. It was just, let's see, last time you were on was for the tank, I believe the tank showcase, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and then we also have, I think, as well from that showcase, one of our senior designers, Mr. Trad. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone again.
And then we have a new face with us, one of our senior visual effects artists, Mr. John. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun. This is your first time on, right?
Yes, it is.
And you have been doing a lot of work on the visual effects side, and today I know many in our audience have been anticipating this early work in progress look at the Alpha 2 Mage, and we have, I'm sure already, the chat is ecstatic looking at the hotbars of abilities that we're going to be looking at today. We're not going to go through all of them, but we are going to go through I believe the electrical spells, some of the utilities, and some of the frost abilities, right, Trat?
That's right. Yeah, we're going to be looking at a bit of an ice lightning mage. This will not be the only elements that you'll see on the mage, but that's what we're going to be focused on today. And just specifically some interactions between those elements and showing off how the elements can be used together to create synergies.
Yes, and I know we've been talking about this obviously for a good amount of time, and the way that kind of the class kits synergize and work together, and you guys saw a little bit of that with the tank demonstration between, I believe two abilities had like a staggered to a knockdown promotion. Is that right, Trent?
That's correct. Yeah, we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into that kind of stuff. You'll see probably 3 or 4 different interactions within this kit, and that's just the start of it.
Cool. Now, we are in the Riverlands, of course, but we are, where are we right now? I think we're at the, this is like a, what is this place called? This is the Hall of Judication, which is, was an Aelan, I guess, prison slash trial location that they kept criminals for court. And we're not going to go inside this location because I think it's filled with some goblins that might be a little bit beyond our pay grade. But outside, I think there are some more friendly flowers, perhaps, that we can also play with, and then maybe some rock monsters. But what I want to do before we start there is I think it would be beneficial for us to first get a kind of a base on what each of these abilities do. I know that was something that a lot of the players really liked seeing before we actually get into some combat interactions. And then later, I'm going to let Trad show off some of the intricate combos when we kind of showcase the broader kit. But one thing I want to tell the audience is that, in our previous showcases, we've tended to kind of showcase a little bit more gameplay-oriented kind of walkthroughs of zones and areas and have elements of different encounter designs and monsters and whatnot. Today, we're going to really focus in on these individual abilities, their mechanics, and what it means for the broader, combat design of our archetypes in Ashes of Creation, and hopefully get some good feedback from the community on this direction. And I know Keenan has some questions that he wants to talk about. And John, I know we're going to talk with him a little bit about kind of the next edge kind of technology that we're utilizing for some of our VFX and how these abilities interact. So before we get started, let's go through these abilities one at a time. What's our first one that we have here? This is something that I think we had in Alpha 1. This was our Blink. Is that right, Trad?
Yep, this is one of the ones that we've brought back. This was definitely, I would say, most of our favorite spells from Alpha 1, so we had to bring it back. Even the visuals were just awesome. So, yeah, anyone who played Alpha 1 should be pretty familiar with that.
I'm going to set my cooldowns to 0 so I can show the abilities over and over again. So this is the Blink ability, and obviously its purpose is to close the gap, to create a gap, to reposition. Talk to me a little bit about the use case of a Blink from the Mage's kit perspective.
I mean, you covered it there. It's a gap opener, gap closer, whatever you want it to be, and we'll showcase some kind of that. We'll showcase that kind of gameplay and actual action once we get to the encounter section of this this stream. But you'll see that mages will probably prefer to use this spell in different ways based on how you're speccing the mage. So if you are a more ranged-based classic mage, you'll most likely use this to create space to put between you and your opponent. But like a more melee-based mage might actually want to use this to get on their opponent.
Yes, to initiate. Absolutely. That feels like the way I would use it. And then after this, we have a, let me see, before we get into the combat abilities, perhaps we use, actually, let me show the shield. Speaking of a combat mage, if you're in the middle of fighting, talk to me a little bit about the shell.
Yeah, this is a pretty classic mage spell that you've probably seen before. It's just a big health shield. It absorbs a bunch of damage, and it has a duration, so usually you want to time it with when you're going to anticipate taking a bunch of damage at once, and we'll show that off too in a little bit with some of our rotations that put the mage in a little bit more danger for greater payoff.
And this is kind of a short duration shell. Now, obviously, duration excuse me, can be one of the parameters that are augmented by some of our augment abilities, so it could be potentially extended by an augment in the future, but it's essentially short duration for those temporary hit points. Is that right? Kind of like if you're stuck in a little bit of a bind.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the point of the duration. Like usually these health shields can be pretty strong, and so timing that is part of the balance and also part of the gameplay skill that comes into deciding when to use that and when to put it on cooldown.
And then let's show off this ball of lightning. Now, John, you have done a lot of work on the tech side for VFX with regards to how lightning kind of interacts with surfaces from a sticky surface perspective, and just establishing what I think is a really cool even style guide and shape language for this electricity. And talk to us a little bit about what it took to create this.
I think one of the things that helps set Ashes apart from an effects perspective is that we want our effects to be dynamically generated. We want them to interact with the world. We want them to feel like they are part of the combat. So when we come to wanting to work with something like lightning, we actually want it to seek out different, things in the world and stick to them. We want it to feel like you are actually in control of that lightning, not just plastered on top. So what we've been working on are kind of behavior systems where you model the behavior of the lightning and how it should work. And then, those systems get put into our effects and you get a very consistent, repetitive, not repetitive in like its motion, but how it behaves, result from it.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I love this ability too. And when we get into combat, you guys will see kind of its use case.
I will say this is one of my favorite spells just to use, not only visually, but like for reasons you'll see later, but like it's a zoning tool. It's like a mobile zoning tool. It's great for applying status effects because it's hitting very rapidly. There's lots of different ways you can use this thing to your advantage.
I'm sorry.
This one was so much fun to make.
People aren't supposed to be using. I have cooldowns. I'm sorry. I set my cooldowns to 0, so I'm launching like a whole bunch of them. But I just really love the effects. I think it's so cool.
It was just fun to figure out how to get it to stick to the floor and make it actually kind of walk along,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, we also have a little bit on the frost side. Let's talk about this ability. And this one is a blizzard. Explain a little bit about Blizzard, Keenan.
Blizzard is a very complicated spell. I have thought a lot about Blizzard. It rains projectiles down that deal damage, but also does a fairly frequent burst that applies chilled stacks. It also has a little bit of mobility into it, which is something we talked about quite a bit. We felt that it was important to maintain some control over this ability, even though it's very powerful, just to give players that maximal sense of agency as they are destroying the battlefield.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love the visuals here as well, John. The decals on the ground with the frost and the impacting ice shards. Now, is this talk to me a little bit about kind of how you create from a visual effects perspective these individual elements and their reusability.
One of the things that's really good about working here is that we are involved very early on, and we can look at the things that are going to be challenging from what design and the engineering team want to build from an effects perspective, and then inform them on those things. And when we want really cool frost zones all over very uneven terrain that they build out like cool displacements in the ground, there's not a button for that. We have to go and work really closely with tech art and figure that stuff out. And then how do you make sure that the particle systems can drive those decals and they can be animated? So being part of that process very early on, working with the concept team to identify what the challenges are going to be, and then really being able to communicate with those teams about how to accomplish it before it hits our desk is really powerful.
Absolutely.
I remember when when you showed me your first iteration, John, and I was like, how does it look when you move? And you were like, what?
Yep. That is definitely one of the things that you are so very good at, Keenan. You take like whatever system we have designed and you find the one thing almost immediately that we didn't account for, and I appreciate you for that, because once we fix it, it looks so good.
Absolutely. It is a very difficult process, kind of, creating these abilities in a way that, obviously answers the call from a design perspective in the kits that we want to create and the interconnectivity between those kits, but also establish what players want to see out of a class fantasy. And the mage is a very near and dear to many people's hearts. I know it is to mine as well. And there's just so much space here to create strong visual languages around the different types of magics and elements that are utilized. It's a very strong part of the Ashes of Creation class kits. So we have another ability called Cone of Cold. Talk to me a little bit, Trad, about Cone of Cold.
Yep, ice spells have a tendency to be complicated. This is another one. So this is a cone spell. I mean, it's pretty simple in that regard. Like, you hit enemies in front of you. You apply what is one of our elemental status effects called Chilled. It does as you would probably expect. It slows the target, and it can stack for an increasing amount of slow per stack you put on them. But if you might notice that there are some little crystals that it leaves on the ground there, and each one of those is a proximity ice mine that if someone steps on, it will explode and apply additional stacks and damage. So it's really good at creating area denial between your opponent and yourself, and if you force them through it, then you can count on being able to escalate your stats effects a little quicker.
Now, I've aggroed this monster. You guys will notice that it's not pathing towards me, but that's because I want to show off some additional abilities excuse me, that require a target. So, Lightning Strike. Talk to me about what Lightning Strike does.
Sure. This one's a little more straightforward. It's kind of one of your bread and butter single target abilities. You can charge it for varying degrees of efficacy. So you can either release it really soon to apply stacks quickly of the electrified status effect in the lightning category, or you can charge it up longer and do more damage. So I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what you might be noticing on the icons on these enemies. But once you build 10 stacks of electrified on the target, you'll notice that they'll get another icon on them, and that is the shocked status effect. And what that means is that when you hit them with damage, once that thing is applied, it will consume electrified stacks with each hit you do to them while that's active to do or proc additional damage.
So I'll show that here. You can see that electrified gets applied. But one thing also that is interesting is this elemental empowerment. Talk to me a little bit about elemental empowerment.
Yep, so you might be wondering, well, how am I going to get all the way to the number of status effects I need if my abilities are on cooldown and, I need 10 of them to get there? Well, the wand combo is, or well, your weapon combo in general on the mage is very good at doing so because it will take the elements of the last spell you cast and for about a 5-second period or so apply that element in status effect applications to the enemy as you're attacking them. So you might see that happening here.
So let's show off a little bit of that of that interaction after I kill this guy real quick in the next one, and how promotions work on those types of status conditions. So what's a good promotion effect that I can do between electricity and frost right now?
Usually I like to stick with frost first. So I'll open with, do we want to show frostbolt?
Yeah, we can show
let's
frostbolt.
do that. So this is a single target projectile attack that applies 2 stacks of chill to the enemy. And then after that, hit him with a few wand attacks. Now you'll see that you've gotten a frozen status effect on him. And then he timed that really well right there. But like in that very last frame, you'll see that he hit him with a lightning effect, which triggers the Shadis. It's not even a condition, it's just a reaction. And that just triggers a bunch of damage. So that's a good way to get your burst damage if you're rotating your spells and your elements the correct way.
Yeah, that's super cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that particular interaction is by far my favorite thing about this mage.
Yeah, I like the the ability for a spellcaster or just any player with their archetype, having the option to kind of weave in between those rotations and those spells, and to create successful combinations within their kit that you amplify the DPS or the status conditions or the control effects or whatever it is your end goal. Having a rotation that emphasizes your ability to succeed or fail in those combos, I think is compelling from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they really are intended to be rotational drivers and help you get introduced to a kit that, might otherwise feel like just a disparate set of spells that don't really belong together. This is just one way that we're really making them feel connected, and it's not the only way. You'll see some other synergies that are a little bit more organic with a few of these other spells that we have yet to get to, but that's kind of the crux of how we're getting those rotational elements down.
Now
I
talk
think
to
your ball
me.
lightning
Oh, yeah,
just
go ahead.
shattered that for you.
I know. I timed it so that it would essentially hit the target while the frost application applied. I used another ability called Chain Lightning. Talk to me about Chain Lightning.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to Lightning Strike, except it's more of an AoE role that it's filling. So you won't see it here because you're only attacking one target, but if there were multiple targets, you would see lightning branch off from the main target that you have to nearby additional targets. So it's really good at applying its status effect in a more AoE scenario, which we will also show you soon.
Let me see if I can... sorry, I spawned a few more targets just to demonstrate that. Let me sleep them all. Talk to me a little bit about sleep.
Yeah, so this is an AoE CC that breaks on damage. It's great for like creating space and setting up a window, but you can't just like DPS them down while they're sitting there weak. So it's kind of it's a trade-off. It's very good, especially if you're in a more organized group that knows to hold off and like kind of control the battlefield without just throwing damage everywhere.
Yeah, that is super cool. But now, John, talk to me a little bit about the ability for this lightning to kind of connect with these different points of collision.
So, first, working with this combat team so early makes things like the idea that they want to be super twitchy and rotate the player while they're casting it very obvious from the start as a huge challenge. So when we go about designing these systems, we're looking for not only does it look good, but is it performant? And building out the systems that can look for all of the players, the ground, collision objects like trees or rocks, and not only like collide them but avoid them, is just super satisfying.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's one of the cool things. You were talking about like looking for that collision, and one thing I want to demonstrate on that comment is, let me see if I can find a good spot to showcase that here. Hold on one second. Let me just spawn a little dude, maybe right here-ish, and then actually no, wait, we got a friend. Let's use him. Put you to sleep right there. Okay, and then let me get behind this rock. Whoops, sorry guys. I'll launch around this area here. Oh, that looked so good. Did you guys see that
cool.
arc? That was so cool.
All hacks.
Talk
And
to
you
us
can
about that,
rotate
John.
while you're casting. So we wanted to really pay attention to that player agency that's been so important for the combat team. If you're able to move and rotate and get out of the way, and your effects suddenly disconnect from you or don't feel like you're in control of them anymore, it doesn't look right. And we really want it to look and feel interactive and fun. We don't want you to turn the effects off. We want you to enjoy it.
Yes.
I'm definitely not used to seeing such like grounded lightning in games and MMOs especially. No
I
pun
am
intended.
a mage player, and bad lightning angers me. So it was just not allowed. Like, we had to do better. And it's still very much a work in progress, but we are definitely on the right path, and it's performant. And, I think another aspect of this that's really cool is you're looking at it as lightning right now, but the same system that does lightning does the ice crystals, does the airstrike roots. There's all kinds of different behaviors that these very performant systems can handle.
Absolutely. All right, next up we have Arcane Volley. What is Arcane Volley?
This is a single target arcane spell. Unlike the other ones we've shown you, this doesn't have any particular element associated with it. And it might look a little underwhelming at first, but you can use this pretty quickly. It's on a 2-charge cooldown, and there is a particular synergy that we all like to use with it. If you haven't figured it out, it's how it synergizes with the shocked status effect. The shocked status basically says with each hit, it triggers additional damage, and Arcane Volley is a perfect candidate for that synergy.
I am let me just make sure this guy's wings are good to go. Trad, I would love for you and I to perhaps swap places here, and for you to walk us through some of these more elaborate combinations. One thing that is really cool, guys, I don't know, it was about a year ago or so, we showed off this particular Thunderbolt gliding mount, and we put a little bit more work. Jason's been putting a little bit more work into the glide mechanic, and let's see if I can set myself up. I want to fly you over to a little location, Trad, where you can demonstrate some of these combos. So I think there's a plateau that's kind of near here. Let's see if we can do this. Oh god. And we're doing it. Okay, so this is kind of the gliding distance that you can develop a little bit with these gliding mounts. So there's some good amount of distance traveled, I think. Oh my god, I pulled a little bit too many troops. Hold on.
You're getting more.
Yeah. Wait. Let me fly back out.
Reset.
Let me reset. All right, wait. We're good. Let's just walk over. Actually, no. I'm gonna fly to a little safer spot in the corner here. There we go. Oh, and he's T-posing. Don't mind him. He's good. Just tell him to go away. Up, and we got another one. And he died. Okay, we're good. Alright, Brad, let me just, hold on. My god, I hope I don't die. Alright, get ready. We're gonna swap over here. Why are there so many creeps on this hill? Oh, no. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Give me 1 second. Let me just see if I can reset them. Okay, there we go. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good.
I think-
They reset. They reset. Nope, they're trying to path to me. They're very angry. Very angry. Oh. Why won't they leash?
They have a super long leash radius.
Okay. Trad, let's you and I swap. What do you think? You want to swap? And we'll do this over here.
Yeah, good luck, Trad.
Hopefully
Yeah, you
they
set him
will
up for
reset.
success here.
Yes.
All
Just
right.
a big AoE pull.
All right, we're gonna swap. Give me 1 second. And we are now swapped, or we're swapping. Sorry, Trad, come on over. And show us some of the magic in the combos.
All right, we are back. I'm gonna do my best to salvage this situation here. Got a big pull. All right, so first I'm gonna thin out this encounter a little bit. I'm gonna demonstrate one of the more single.
I just want you to know, Trad, real quick, that prior to you thinning out the herd there, that if it wasn't for my training all of those creeps, you would not have had this a spectacular opportunity to just showcase the sheer AoE potential in this kit.
Oh, I see. We're skipping straight to that then. All right.
And he can do it without the cooldowns too.
No pressure whatsoever. All right, no, let's set
Yeah,
our
you
cooldowns back
turn
too.
your cooldowns back
Yeah.
on, yeah.
He can do it.
Oh yeah.
All right, doing it live. Let's see. First,
So walk us through kind of what you're gonna use.
so because this is going to be more of an AoE combo, I would say one of the better rotations for this is almost one of the more battle mage-like rotations. So that this is going to be something you could almost expect from, like maybe mage fighter or something like that. You know, I'm going to equip the Great Blade. So this is just to show that mages use non-conventional weapons in Ashes of Creation. We're going to show that off soon, especially with what we showed you earlier, the Elemental Empowerment spell. This will actually apply to all things that you hit in your cleaving radius with the Greatsword. So here we go.
No, Trad. Oh god.
I canceled my Blizzard.
That was a rip.
Oh, that's so good.
Too many mobs, dude.
Oh, we're good. We're
All
good.
right,
We're
maybe
good. My bad.
Maybe they'll reset.
Now you're reset. You're good. Okay, guys, I just had to set Trad up to die like that. I apologize. I just wanted to just showcase that the mage is not a literal god, like in many games. That if you overpull and you bite off more than you can chew, you're still gonna die.
I love it. We can't ever get it the first try, right? That would be a boring MMO.
No, that would be very boring. There's a little bit of a, difficulty challenge here. Oh, you almost made it back. This is nice. Not bad. Kind of like a little puzzle to get back in here.
He did it pretty quick too. I get lost.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can get a little bit of a better setup here. All right, I'm gonna shelf the AoE one and go to the single target one, and then we'll do the AoE one
sounds
again
good.
after that. All right, so this is a little easier one. Here we go.
You're gonna need your wand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, some big deeps there. And that's because of the shattered. Oh, and you slept the next one. Nice. I love that ball. Oh, you're making quick work of these, Trad. Not bad.
Yep. So that's the single target rotation I like a lot, at least with this kit. Once you start introducing some of these other elements in here that we're not going to show you this time, but you'll get to see them eventually, it really opens like a whole realm of possibilities. Actually, we could even try it on this one. This guy's got a lot of health.
This guy takes a few rotations to bring down.
Yeah, I've been really practiced on this one. Let's see how it goes.
And now, Keenan, talk to us a little bit about kind of the process that goes into creating these, class kits for Alpha 2. Your strike team has been hard at work in kind of developing phase 1 and phase 2 of these. What exactly goes into those phases?
Well, it's pretty much a 3-phase process. Phase 1 is very open-ended. We pretty much try everything under the sun, and we put it together in every way we can imagine, and we try to figure out what we like and don't like and iterate fast. Like we usually do playables like twice a week when we're in that phase. What you guys are seeing here is actually abilities that are in the process of passing phase 2. So they are approaching levels where we are happy with how they play, happy with how they look, and some details may change over time, but generally speaking, this is what we're going for. And from here, it would mostly just be like polish and assets and just getting like external feedback and stuff like that.
Very nice. Trad, I liked your use of slumber there. You're in a precarious spot. Oh god. Oh my god, Trad, I am literally on the edge of my seat just watching this, hoping you don't turn into ash. Oh god. Trad! Ow. Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Butt shell.
I wanted to make it look close, it's good for the audience.
Uh-huh, yeah. Yep. Me too. That's when I die, it's because it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's dramatic effect.
Yeah, agreed, totally.
Alright, should we set our health back up, or do we have to wait for regen here? Gonna do
No,
it the classic
you
way?
can set it.
Alright.
You can negative nuke yourself.
Dude, the aggro range on these things. I see why you aggro everything so often.
You see what I mean? This is what I'm having to deal with right now. That's well done. You see this, audience? Utilize elements of the terrain to obstruct the pathing from the monster while we have yet to stand up the right pathing to deal with that. Oh, it's so good. This guy's a little boy, though. He's not too bad. This is just more of like the single rotation kit.
Yep.
And you do not have to build your mage down this elemental path, right? That's one of the design elements of this kit, is that there are a lot of different paths that you're able to take the mage down, not just the lightning and ice path or elementals. Talk to us a little bit about kind of the composition of abilities that are intended between utility, defensive, gap closers, and mobility, DPS oriented ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we've been demonstrating a little bit with some of these other ones. Like this shell has definitely saved me more than a few times. Slumber as well. Like a lot of defensive utility goes into the mage being able to sustain themselves, when they're having situations like this where, detected by mobs and they weren't quite prepared for it. And I think that's really what rounds out the kit for classes like this. It's not all about just dishing out DPS all the time. It really comes down to those like situational things and using those things intelligently to come out on top.
Nice.
Let's see if we can get an AoE encounter here.
By the way, if you want to turn around, Trad, you're able to you can do like 1, 2, and 3 just kind of in the middle, just face directly into that dirt area there, and just numpad 1, 2, 3, and it'll spawn just right in front of you. And just turn slightly. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
All right, classic AoE encounter here. Let's go.
And guys, just to give you context here, as Trad's doing this, again, we were taking a little bit of a direction here with this showcase. We wanted to kind of give you just how we do things from a combat arena perspective and development perspective, and how we iterate, as Keenan was talking about. There are multiple iterations that occur during phase 1 development, twice a week almost with that strike team. and they use arenas that are a little bit lower weight than the than the Ashes of Creation world, and that's kind of the combat arena that has things like dummies and just a lot of different design-oriented test subjects that are helpful. One of those is just spawning monsters as you need it.
Yeah, one of our guiding theories is that the more iterations we can execute on, the better the game will be. So we're all about minimizing that time to iteration.
Yeah.
That's something that's also really important for us. When you guys are iterating so quickly, we want to make sure that the systems that are using that animation to really drive the effects don't break every 4 days because you guys decided to change it up. We really want to only address changes for, major differences in how the ability functions. So these systems are pretty robust.
Yeah. And I noticed there, Trad, when you were swinging with your greatsword, you had that elemental empowerment?
Elemental empowerment. Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Like, it's not just the wand that interacts with these different abilities. Different weapons have different synergies with class abilities, which just it introduces that extra level of depth, right? It's like, how can I maximize the effect of this? And it's like I'm trading, in this case, my ranged potential for the ability to apply these status effects in a more AoE regard, which makes the greatsword a lot better for dealing with packs than the wand. And sometimes you'll even be able to use either one based on the situation, right? We'll allow players to swap their weapons based on what they are coming up against, and it creates a lot of answers to different situations if you have the tools for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to be clear, the greatsword was dealing so much damage there because they were shocked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good AoE weapon, but by itself, it's not that good. It was really the shock that was making it deal so much damage.
Yeah. Well, you got another little friend there. You could probably press 4 a couple times. You want to grab a couple more of those. Oh, yeah, grab those.
I think we'll just put him to sleep.
Good call. Well, guys, as always, this is a continued work in progress. Alpha 2, as you know, is a big test period for us. A lot of the archetypes are going to be online to a significant level with a significant amount of abilities that are going to be available to kind of test. And as part of our monthly showcases where we show you development in progress, this is our opportunity to collect feedback on what you guys have seen. Keenan, do you have some questions that are most relevant for your teams with regards to the iteration and development of this combat that you'd like to posit to the community?
Yeah, I would say there's 3 major things that I'm interested in gathering feedback on, and the first one stems from player agency, which is one of the things that we prioritize the most. And so, in the context of this kit, what that looks like is how people feel about the amount of mobility that it has during spells. People may have noticed that the cleric was walking out of its spells and canceling them, but this mage can actually continue to cast. They just have a slower movement speed. How do people feel about that? How does it look? The second thing I'm interested in is how the transition between spells is coming across. Does it look good? Does it look clunky? How do people feel about that? And then finally, the complexity of the kit. Are people pretty happy with these elemental interactions and how they would think about them during combat, or are they interested in something more complicated or less complicated?
Awesome. And guys, as always, remember this is a work in progress. There is still iteration necessary. There's a lot of artwork that's still outstanding and requires second, third, fourth passes and polish. But we are showing you, everything as it is in development because we find that it's a very important interaction with the community to collect this type of feedback and get your guys' thoughts on the direction that we're taking. Because at the end of the day, when we launch Ashes of Creation, we want to make sure that we've had as much touch point with the community as possible so people don't go, what game is this? But with that being said, John, Trad, Keenan, I want to thank all 3 of you for joining me today and showcasing the hard work that you and the rest of the team have been putting towards developing this mage and the other archetypes. I know I speak for the community when I say thank you. You guys are doing an awesome job. Very excited to see this played by players in Alpha 2. And with that being said, we will see you all back on stream. Bye, guys.